Hello everybody, welcome again to Lee Valley for day 2 of the British Masters Championships. Today's the 1500. My race is on in about an hour's time, so I feel a bit tired today, so I think I need to do a little warm up, see if I can wake up a bit. But the legs aren't feeling too bad in terms of stiffness, but just a bit lethargic as it were. But yeah, that's the whole purpose of a warm up, isn't it? So I hope to get another good race in. I think it's be just one race today, which means that I'll probably be a bit outclassed, but I need to find somebody to sort of latch onto, I think, and then find myself a nice rhythm, a bit like I did yesterday, and see if I can have a good result at the end of the day. Okay, so here we are lining up for the 1500 M55 race. There was 8 of us in this one, slightly fewer than the 10 of us in the 2 races yesterday. I was racing against 3 people that I raced in my actual 800 metre race yesterday. John Nibb, who actually won the race, he came 3rd in this one in the end, and Stephen Reed, who came 4th. Now, what I would say is that I think I actually ran far better in the 800 last night, so I set off a bit tentatively here. I knew this was going to be a more tricky race because we had Mark Symes there at the front and Alan McDonald, who were 1st and 2nd in the 800, and you can see that they weren't exactly hanging around. Phil in the M60 race is much more tactical, and they didn't really go off at what I thought was like top speed. But yeah, I mean, I settled in quite well, and there I ran through 41 at 200, so 5:07 pace, which is pretty much what ended up running in the end. I did actually sort of slightly vary it, but you see there that I'm actually in 7th place, and I'm trying to get back onto Nigel Heron, who's the guy that I managed to nip past in the 800 the other day, and you can see there that I'm coming through 300 in exactly 1 minute, so it's now bang on 5-minute pace. So yeah, then I've gone past Nigel, and what I did find with the 1500, I just sort of mentally it was a lot more harder because you're doing 7.5 laps, so almost to the point you almost start counting the laps, which is probably not a good thing. But in the 800, I felt like even though it was 4 laps, I could actually sort of concentrate much more on the guy in front of me and just sort of race it. In this one, you can see here that I'm just perhaps more struggling for motivation. I think my legs were a bit tired from the day before, but I'm glad I came out and give it a good go because this is so much better race than I did in the mile race the other day. You can see now that the gaps are starting to grow quite a lot, and I'm trying to hang on to dear life to Ian Harper there, who was a very good runner in the 90s. He's an Irish athlete, about 8:15 for 3,000. So it's interesting how some of these athletes are coming back into it. Mark Symes, who I interviewed after the 800, he hadn't done any running as a sort of a senior, as it were, so he's coming into it fresh. Same with Alan. When I looked up John Nibb in 3rd place, he's done very similar times to me, 1:56, 3:56 to my 1:55, 3:55. And you can see how sort of smooth Mark looks. He's quite a tall guy, not as tall as me, but just as thin, I would say. And he looks clearly he's like a strong guy, so I think that may be a message for me there. And so 700, 2:21. So not seeing much of it in this race. It's one of the problems with not actually being in the sort of the race itself. They tend to concentrate on the leaders, don't they? Obviously, so I had to sort of like piece together splits of this as it went by. But yeah, I mean, Mark Symes ended up running 4:30 in this race, which is the sort of time I was knocking out maybe 10-15 years ago. So it doesn't seem like impossible, but it seems like a long way away at the moment. But I feel like I made really good progress this weekend because it was my 3-year best in the 800 and the 1500. Technically, I was slightly slower than I was in an outdoor mile split last year, but I'll say that is in an actual race. There we go. So I'm now 5:05 pace. I've just drifted off, but I'm still hanging on to Ian Harper for dear life. And I think at this point now I'm starting to sort of like feel it a bit. But yeah, I didn't really feel that it was like a bad race. It just felt like it was like a bit of a war of attrition. And you can see there Mark going through and Alan. So yeah, it's just a bit of a procession this race, isn't it? And that's John Nibb there in 3rd, and then Stephen Reed in 4th. And then you can see there just about I have a slight gap coming on. 3.5 minutes. Yeah, I'm just about hanging on to him, but he's now starting to ease away slightly. In the end, he took in the end he took 7 seconds out of me in the last sort of minute or so. So that was a bit disappointing. And then here's Nigel Heron, who I beat a lot more easily in the 800, but he's actually having a lot better race. And at this point, with Mark coming to the bell, I was a bit worried about being lapped, which would be a bit embarrassing in the 1500. But yeah, it was okay there. So he's coming for his last lap, 3:56. So he actually ran 34 for the last 200, so that's impressive running. I mean, he's basically running the same speed I was running the 800 with yesterday. So you can sort of see that if I was for halfway pacing him, I might be able to do so. And now who we got? That's Stephen Reed there in 4th. had a good few battles with him over the years. I look back and I actually raced him back in the 90s in the well in 5. I just managed to get the better of him. So here's Mark, just about managing to avoid lapping me. And then here comes Nigel. And then we'll see Alan just coming in here. I think we might just go out shot in a minute. But yeah, here he goes. We flick to a bit of a thing. I think we see an action replay again of Mark coming in again. Yeah, and here's Mark checking his watch. We all seem to be doing that, don't we? It's the Strava thing. So there goes Nigel, and let's have another look at Alan coming in again. And we'll cut out to it. Yes, we seem to have missed, unfortunately, Stephen finishing. But there's Ian there in 5:02. So I'm next, 5:09. In the end, I was actually quite pleased. I just ducked under 5:10. It's always nice to be under a slight barrier. And then Nigel finishing very strongly. I think he gained a bit of time on me at the end there. And in 8th place is Shaw Beard. He's another guy that used to be a very good runner when he was a bit younger. Obviously not on quite so good form today, but good to see all these sort of former runners. It's interesting, the mix between the people that were good runners in the past. I wouldn't say I was a good runner, but I was sort of county standard. I don't think there was anyone in this race who was like a superstar. Ian Harper is probably the best runner of anyone in the field. And you'll probably see him in a minute sort of collapsing over the side of the wall here, absolutely exhausted. So I would say definitely that I actually tried my best here. And yeah, maybe one race too many the day after another one. But as Matt said, nothing to lose really. And there I am, actually exhausted. I think Phil York will come into view in a minute, who ran very well actually in the M60 race, just out on the medals. But he had a good race to run, 5:03. So he had the best of me time-wise today. So maybe a good job we were in separate races. Otherwise he would have taken the plaudits, as it were. And then, yeah, so we're all, there goes Phil, just about to see a glimpse of him. Okay, so I thought we'd have a look at a few stats. So this is from the 800 race on Saturday from Garmin Connect, and using the indoor track mode seems to work quite well, just under half a mile, which is exactly right. My self-time 2:25.9 as against 2:26.29, so my ability to time myself not too bad. I was hoping slightly for a 2:25. It sounds an awful lot better than a 2:26. But you can see here that the pace starts with a 4, which is always pleasing. Not quite Kipchoge marathon pace, but yeah, we have to take what we can. I think it was 68, 2:16 for that. So heart rate rose pretty quickly, got to a max of around about 150. So yeah, that was quite good. Stride length there, about the 175 mark. Maybe drifted off a bit as I was getting tired towards the end. I think I stopped my watch slightly late as well. Cadence, once you get off the line, it's obviously going to be lots of short steps to get going. When I was actually in full stride, what about 198 there, 196 as I was getting a bit more tired towards the end, averaging 196, but I think that's probably a slight drift off there. So yeah, 197, 198. So that's not bad. Vertical oscillation, that's going to be quite low in this sort of thing. I think, yeah, averaging 7.7 there. Power, obviously, that's going to be no wind effects here, obviously, indoors, averaging 439 there, you see. Ground contact time balance, I was using the Dragonfly spikes, as I normally do. Slightly over to the left as normal, but nothing too much. A bit varied, actually, isn't it? I suppose I was actually starting in lane 5, so I was on a bit of a camber there for sure. But it all looks fairly normal. And the stamina, after 2.5 minutes of hard effort, down to 55%. So yeah, certainly working hard. If we compare that to the 1500, no, I wasn't actually quite so good on the distance here. I think I stopped it a couple of seconds late, but even so, that should be around about 0.91 miles, not 0.97. So I didn't do so well there. And you can see all the pace. It looks like I was sort of drifting back off, but yeah, I mean, not too bad. What did I get my heart rate? So I didn't actually get my heart rate anywhere near as high in the 1500. You kind of expect you'd get it higher, 5 minutes of effort rather than 2.5 minutes. But yeah, I only managed to get it to a maximum of 144. So that's quite telling. Maybe that just shows that maybe I was just a bit tired, maybe just not quite on it. I suppose that's kind of what you expect, isn't it? Stride length. Again, it seems to have started off quite fast, then just slowly drifting down a bit. Obviously, the stride length is going to be less when you're going a bit slower, 159 there. Cadence, again, a bit slower, or a bit lower, should we say. Again, as you totally expect, going a bit slower. But yeah, still quite high there, almost into the 190s, 189 average. Vertical oscillation 8.3. I never quite know what to make of that. Power there averaging 434, very constant really. Ground contact time balance. That's interesting. 52 left. Yeah, that's kind of quite similar, isn't it? It looks. I think the benchmark for going red is 52.0, so maybe it looks more red than it actually is. And I think stamina seems to work very well. There seems to think I was just coasting along. As in the 800, after 2.5 minutes, I got down to 55%, and this was only showing 79% for running twice as long. So yeah, it's kind of interesting in itself. It does rather point to the fact I wasn't really trying in the 1500, wasn't it? Which maybe is a good sign. So I always like to have a look at my Run Britain Rankings handicap, see if it's improved, and it has indeed. It's gone up to 5.8 from 6.1, largely from the 800, which has gone straight in at number one, shall we say. Indoors, I set a default SSS of 0.5. Maybe I need to review that. But yeah, you can see here that I've actually got a negative VSS for the first time in absolutely ages. So that's probably the first time since the Speedway 10K 2 years ago that I actually managed to get a negative VSS. So I managed to get a 0-1 for Seville Marathon. So I think my three best races in recent years have been the Speedway 10K, the Marathon in Seville, and the British Masters 800. That's perhaps an illustration of why I'm a bit of a jack of all trades. So if I actually focused on one event for a little bit of time, then maybe I should get a bit better at one of them, rather than just doing random marathons, random 10Ks and random 800s. But yeah, it's quite reassuring. And the 1500, though, wasn't quite so good. It's still just outside the top 5 at number 6 there, and it'll probably pop in when some of these other ones have a bit more of the time penalties added to them. So yeah, it's interesting that I got 2 of my 800s in the top 3, so that's good testament to the fact that I'm actually training for 800s and I'm actually doing best at 800, so that's always good. Another thing I like to do is have a look at my Power 10 and see where the age graded stands. So if we sort by age graded, so here we go. My best ever age graded was 4:00:35 for 1500 when I was 35. It just edged from my all-time PB. That was my best absolute performance, I would say, 3:55 1500. Then next I've actually got 4 800s. My PB all-time 1:55.8, 1:56.2, and then 2 1:56.4s, and then a mile. So you can see that all my best age graded have always been basically 8:15 on the mile. Now what we want to see is where this one slotted in. I think it actually got a reasonably high age graded, so just scrolling down. Oh, here we go. So yeah, in 75th place, 226.29, 84.24%. So that's my highest age grading for a long time. And that equates to when I was doing just outside 2 minutes as a senior there. Although I think that was 2003 when I was just about my last year, about age 36. So, yeah, what is the best one in recent times? I think that was, if we scroll back up to, 16th place when I did 2:18.59, age 53, 4 years ago, at the back end of the COVID summer. So my target, as you can see there, is if I can improve, I think I worked it out, I need to do about 2:20 to better my all-time age graded PB. So yeah, it doesn't look impossible, does it? And we'll see. You can see virtually all my best times have actually been set as a senior, so it does rather illustrate that I've still got a bit of catching up to do as a aging master, and for some reason just not able to be quite as good as I was, as it were. And another one there, 216.3. That was so interesting that all my best age graded as a master have been basically in 800. So it does rather point to the fact that it's still my best distance. And I think perhaps apart from that one-off one-off very good 1500 when I did 3:55 and the mile, you can see that the all-time my best event perhaps is marginally is the 800. Actually, when I think about this more. Just because that one performance was just slightly better, and that one at 35 as well. So yeah, it's interesting, but there's not much in it between 8 and 15. Obviously, I'm pretty much as good at both really, and definitely got more scope to improve my 15s than my 8s at the moment, I think. But yeah, hope to get them both a bit better. So hopefully it's interesting. Like and subscribe on that, and see you next one then. Bye. Well, my next 800 will probably be in March, Mother's Day. So maybe I'll go and see my mum afterwards, and then I think that'll be my last track race for indoors, and then I'll look to get a few track races in the summer. That'll be good. Looking forward to that.
So this is Darren O'Leary. We raced each other in the 800, but I didn't realise you're more of a sprinter, aren't you? You did some impressive times, I saw.
Predominantly sprinting. My daughters keep trying to encourage me to do other things.
It looks impressive to me. So have you got any more races today?
I'm doing a 400 in about an hour's time.
Oh, okay, good luck. What sort of time are you looking for there?
About 61, 62.
Oh, okay, so you're close to the sub 60, are you?
That's the target. It's always going to be the target.
I think that would be one of my aims this summer. I did a 62 in COVID year, but I think if I can improve my 4s a bit, then it might improve my 8s a bit.
That's what I keep hoping.
It's all relative, isn't it? But yeah. Anyway, good luck anyway.
Thank you, Tim.